Okay, don't need a text.
I think we're live and ready. I'm going to send a link so she can sign on.
Okay. We're going to call to order this meeting of the Commercial Business District Subcommittee on 3/13/24. One more time. Let's do a roll call. Don Bodyfelt, Sandy Bridge, Lena Chartier is getting ready to join us. Ecola Collier is here. Jamie Martin. Not. Walter Martin.
Here.
Marcia Patrick here. Jerry Stranick.
Here.
Allison Brine, sorry.
Here.
Vivian Rojas.
Here.
And Chris Lathine. Not present. Okay. There were some points that we wanted to go back over from the previous meeting. On page 2 of 6. The wording, but not limited to, was left out. And Liz has made sure that that was put back in or put in. So that will be included. Everybody's okay with that? Does that work for everyone?
Okay. Yeah, I think I just missed it in my notes when I was transferring them over.
Okay. And then on that same page, Vivian has asked that the committee was not in agreement to recommend the concept, but there were members who felt strongly to include that be included in our final report. Is there any comment or discussion on that?
I had a comment. Vivian, I think that the previous item said to recommend the rezoning and that we decided as a committee to offer the planning and zoning to evaluate the rezoning. So as a committee, we weren't necessarily recommending that they do it, but to look into it and leave it in the planning and zoning hands.
Okay, as long as that's clear. To me, it's not really clear that that's what, when we're putting these, I'm not sure if we're calling these recommendations. What terminology are we using for what I'm using the word recommending to P and Z? Is the verbiage, somebody could pull out the verbiage of what we are presenting about our business district and help me out here. Mainly and I'll tell you why I asked to have it there, is that as a city council person, I feel like it's my fiduciary duty to make sure that the city holds on to as many properties as it can for revenue. And so in my position with the city council, it is one that if we have 3 lots that we're thinking about rezoning, to me, we're losing 3 potential properties that are business district properties. And so that's where I'm coming from. So if somebody could help me out, as long as I understand, when I look this over and I think this is going to go to P&Z, I want them to understand, and then to the council, I want them to understand that a lot of these items were discussed and a lot of work was done on all of them, and that it's totally a recommendation. But actually, the question, is it a recommendation or is just something that the committee came up with for the P&Z to look at and the council to look at? So I guess I'm looking at, I want a clarification that it's not necessarily a unanimous recommendation, it was one that the council was, or the committee was split on. One that it seemed like out of all of them. Anyhow, I'm not sure if that made any sense, y'all, or not.
Well, Vivian, I personally tend to agree with leaving that, though, that verbiage in there. The committee was not in agreement. I don't see why we shouldn't just include it as another sentence on the back of that.
Yeah, is that you, Marcy? I'm not you speaking.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if it makes any difference. It's just clarification as far as I'm concerned. It's clarification for P&Z to look at, the council look at. The more information that we put on there as far as reasons, rationale, purposes, the easier it is for the organizations, P&Z and the council, to look at what was decided by this committee, which is a lot of work by this committee to put this forward. So the more information you can put forward, I think it's easier for decisions to be made in the future.
Allison?
Yeah, I'm wondering, does the city collect a higher tax rate for those if it's zoned commercial business? Is that the economic fiduciary reason?
No. If
You
you're
can
asking,
still have businesses in the waterfront commercial residential.
they don't pay any more taxes. I think we discussed that before. What my point is that the 3 lots that we're talking about right now, they are to be businesses. If we turn them around, then the option is we have potentially lost 3 potential businesses. That's my fiduciary duty to be concerned about that. So that's what I'm talking about. The revenue made by businesses. Everybody pays property tax. Everybody pays their real estate tax, the real property tax. And but I'm talking about the revenue received by the business that is in effect in all of the business district. Does that make sense, Allison?
Yes, thanks for that clarification.
Is the different rate in commercial or residential water and sewer, is that based on business license or is that based on zoning?
Yes and yes. So it's based on business license for the zones that are optional businesses, but for the commercial business district, because the primary purpose is to be a business, they automatically have a commercial rate.
Okay. That would be one small difference, Allison, between going from the business district to a waterfront commercial residential, is they would potentially not have to pay a higher rate for water and sewer.
Yeah, if they were in fact not running a business.
Okay, so are we in agreement to just include that as an add-on? We can probably, Liz can probably type it up to make it a little bit more, something more final, more of a sentence. Is everybody okay with, in agreement with leaving that on there, or do we?
No.
Okay.
Here's my reason, and I'm going to get right to the point. I think it'll be shorter than this, but I kind of got in hot water that second meeting because I brought it up. But our last meeting, when we started talking about spot zoning, I actually went and I got a definition of that, and it made me really study this comprehensive plan. But what I was interested with the most was the little deal you guys gave us the very first meeting. And 4 times you asked us to review page 5 of the little deal you gave us, which is goal 2 of the comp, the plan.
Comprehensive plan.
Pardon?
Part of the comprehensive plan.
Part of the comprehensive plan. So So I brought it up when I was going through that comprehensive plan. I come across the infamous page 33. And if you look at it really close, it says desired future concepts, land use. And it goes on to say, the diagram below refers to land use scenario to include the vibrant town center. And it has that in kind of a reddish brown color. Then it shows a slough district, which is a brown. And then it shows the enterprise zone, and then it shows the residential neighborhood. Now, when you go to that page 5 of what you guys gave us at the very first meeting, what's interesting to me, now keep in mind that this was a bona fide zoning committee that put this together, along with the commissioners, along with, they opened up a meeting place for residents to look at this. This was a year process, and it was partially financed by Kenai Peninsula Borough to help pay for this comprehensive plan. Now, when I read in the focus areas, now this is what you guys asked us to look at 4 times in a row before the second meeting. And it says, manage city-owned waterfront property to the best strategic advantage. The very second sentence, retain a working waterfront nature with industry and commercial uses along the water's edge between Airport Avenue and Ilianana Street. Now, it looks to me like our forefathers in 2014 have already went over this. But you know, the response I got, and I really think that was on the agenda because you asked us to look at it. And I think I told you guys, I think this comprehensive plan is part and parcel of the argument. But here's the response that I got that night. I'm not for that at all. That was the first response. Someone, it looks like you came here with an agenda. That was, and I don't hear very well. Keep in mind that some of these words may be off just a little bit because I just hear enough to get me in trouble. But the second one sounds like you came here with an agenda. That was spoken out. And I did hear that. The third one, this is a conflict of interest. And the fourth one, this is just a wish list, doesn't mean anything. Well, we're talking about the comprehensive plan. That's not a wish list. I looked it up and I read it completely. It's actually a legal document. And it guides the city in the direction we are meant to go. And our whole process here was to follow that comprehensive plan. And I think I'm right saying that. So if we're not going to do it, we need to apologize for all those people. We need to send some money back to Kenai Peninsula Borough. In my humble opinion, this is a done deal. It was already decided by the public, by the commissioners. It was adopted. And, you know, I thought, wonder why they didn't change the map. Well, I came here in 2015 and it's dawned on me, we are on our 5th city manager. So no doubt it's hard to keep up with everything and remember all those things back. But to me, this sentence here in B, it gives a stop and line on Airport Avenue. And that's the first thing Allison said. It should go right there. Common sense tells you. Now getting to the spot zoning, I'm going to read what spot zoning means according to the rezoning of a small parcel of land within the limits of another zone that is illegal when not done in accordance with a comprehensive zoning plan or when arbitrary or discriminatory. Now, when you look at those 3 lots and you get on the north end of Jerry's lot, it is 635 feet from the closest like property, which would be the veterinarian clearing. That's the south end of that property. And if you look at the map closely, those lots are completely surrounded by a different zone. So I think they fit, and I appreciate you telling me that because I think they fit right in the reason that they should be rezoned. And in my opinion, they've already been that. We just haven't changed the map. So I think what we're doing by asking this planning commission to do it again, we're kind of like shopping for judges. Like, let's go till we get the right answer. Does that make sense? So to me, you've been lucky that a business hasn't got bought and put in there that's kind of ugly for that neighborhood. Because it's kind of hard to buy them out once it's there. The other thing you haven't considered in this defense, say I put a busy business and I start bringing these little trucks of Russ's in and trying to back in there. Imagine it. We're going to back this truck in and unload these groceries here at Walt's new grocery store on a busy July day when that's full up with people and it's not even a through street. Where am I going to turn around? So think about what you're doing when you put this burden on the next zoning board, that it's already been done once. So even if you come back with a big no, I'm going to say, well, okay, let's go back and redo this zoning, period. The whole the comp plan, because it doesn't mean anything anymore all of a sudden. Does any of that make sense? And I apologize here tonight because I don't hear so well. So I pick up bits and pieces, but in my opinion, it was on the agenda from the very get-go. We blew it off 3 times in a row, and here we are again talking about it. When we should have allowed myself, Mr. Lathine, to talk about it in earlier meetings. You asked us to talk about it when you asked us to review that part of the comprehensive plan, because that's definitely part of the comprehensive plan. And so I just think that we're putting a lot of extra burden on a zoning board that we've already decided, and a whole year's worth of extensive process and public opinion. That's it. All we got to say.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vivian.
Yeah, thanks, Walt, for your comments. I think the issue of your concerns of what was stated in the first couple of meetings that you stated about your personal agenda and whatever the other items were. I think looking at it can be understood that yes, you do have a personal attention in this matter because you are involved with one of the lots. And there's a lot to the comprehensive plan that the city is, it was a monumental, as all of them are, monumental documents are put together, and the city tries to adopt what is written, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it is not in the forefront of where we're at. I mean, past comprehensive plans are proof of that. But it does, you're right, it does give us a walking document to work towards, and a working document. But I think, well, what you're saying is, I believe that you do have a personal interest, obviously, because it is a lot that your family owns. And I think there's a lot more to the comprehensive plan beyond these 3 lots, or redefining these 3 lots. So I think that's where it got a little bit mixed up, and maybe your take, and that you feel like it's unjust of what's been brought up about the lot and your personal attachment to it and how you'd like to see it. But I guess, I mean, it's one of many things that we're trying to take care of. And really, with the business district, we're really trying to make it a district that people, visitors, locals can enjoy and be a part of, and it can bring revenue to those owners and to the city. I mean, that's really the importance of this whole march forward. But thank you, Madam Chair.
I would like to say one more thing. If we're that shy of commercial property, let's just consider zoning everything from the bridge right down to the pavilion. Let's turn left. Let's go right up the boardwalk and let's just make it all commercial. Then you can make a little more money off of it, a little more business, but at least it's the continuity is the same. Because you've got 3 lots stuck over there. And it's already been in my eyes, and I've had several other eyes look at this besides me that way smarter than me on this that agree that yes, indeed, you guys did consider that enough to where you printed this statement and you had a mapper draw that map. And Vivian, if I'm not mistaken, you were on the board and you adopted that. If you
May have
look
been
at,
on the board, but I necessarily not everybody is unanimously for every item in the comprehensive plan, but there's negotiation, there's compromise. But I really feel like there's more to what we're doing besides these 3 lots, and it's discussion that can continue on. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so before we continue on, I'm hearing that there is a disagreement, which is okay. We're not expecting the group to agree with everything. So the procedure to amend a zone is that it goes through the planning commission and then it goes to the council. That'll be the same procedure as these recommendations. They'll go to the planning commission and then they'll go to the council. Is it okay with the parties that it is listed in the recommendations with the language that there was not a consensus from the group on this item? Due to the fact that there is not a consensus from the group on this item. However, it is still being forwarded to the planning commission to look at with that knowledge of what's taken place here. Is that fair?
well, let me put it this way. I'm not going to back off from what you've already done. If you guys want, whatever you decide to do is either here or there. You're going to do it anyway. And I would appreciate a consensus. I don't agree that we're shy on commercial property. Half of our, more than a big portion of our commercial property is closed.
Mhm.
So saying we have a shortage of it, and then you got to realize that the other zone does allow it for more like commercial, but not quite so heavy. So you're not, when you look at that strip, it goes all the way up to Jackaloff Bay Road with commercial, the potential of commercial. So I hardly think we're shy of commercial property. So I guess what I'm saying is I think we need to respect the zoning board's decision that already was before us. And because we're trying to nullify them. And I think the minute we say, okay, we're going to do it again, we're nullifying what's already been done. Am I
Yeah, a
mistaken?
little off because the zoning code and the comprehensive plan are separate. There are some communities where it's combined. That hasn't been the case in Seldovia.
Right.
I know Homer is separate and they're actually working to do a combined program. And that is something that administration would love to look forward to in the future, is having a combined, updated comprehensive plan that takes in land use. But right now they're separate documents. And it does state in the comprehensive plan that it's intended as a framework to guide development and strategic community investment over 10 to 20 years. It represents a broad community vision defined by residents during a 2013 public process. This document also provides the legal basis under state law for adopting land use regulations. So there is a way for it to come in under that umbrella, but right now they are separate documents. And it is a plan. It's a plan, right? The comprehensive plan. Doesn't mean that that can't be used for an argument or a justification to make that happen, but the zoning is in code, and code goes through the planning commission. They make a recommendation, and then that goes to the Seldovia City Council. It's not going to be determined by this group.
Well,
So the
whatever.
question is, how do you get it to the next group? And if you don't have a consensus, is it fair to have that listed in the recommendation?
Well, I guess what I think Walter was trying to say, and what I've thought too, is it says right here that the planning and the City Planning Commission approved the comprehensive plan on March 16th, 2014. The City Council adopted it in May 14th, 2014, and the Kenai Peninsula Borough Comprehensive Plan adopted it, and that doesn't give a date. So it's like, I think what he was trying to say is this whole thing with the zoning of, the infamous page 33 and all that kind of has already been approved and adopted by the town and by the zoning and by the borough.
As a framework to guide development. So it hasn't, the recommendations in it may or may not come true or happen, but it is a framework and it is a good justification. It is a argument for that process to move forward. But it's not the zoning code. The zoning code is 18, which is what we've been discussing. So this recommendation or the recommendation to evaluate with the knowledge that not everybody was in agreement still moves it forward to the planning commission with that knowledge that this discussion took place. Not everybody agreed, but that there is a portion of the group that would like this evaluation to take place.
I get all that.
I think Jerry has had his hand up for a moment. Jerry, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm directly involved in this too, because I'm right next to the pavilion there, but I looked at it in two ways. In my own personal advantage by doing it, of course, if it goes the way that Walt says, I'm saving some fees, which I pay $150 a month for that's being used for probably 3 months out of the year, maybe 4. At least the other 2 are living on that property and getting something back for it, but I don't. So it would be to my advantage. But I acquiesce to Vivian's point of view. It's what's best for the community. And I think that we just need to pass this on and let the other bodies debate it if they want to, and if they don't want to, it's a different type of issue. So the one thing that is in common for all the properties that we are talking about is they all go down into the harbor. That's the big deal. And I think that, when you can, everything along the whole slough all the way up to the end is residential, commercial. So it can be waterfront residence commercial. So if it was advantageous to have a business, like my wife has a business, has a business and she's doing that and she's paying the bigger fee there too, and so forth. But she has a business. It's closed. It's only open 4 months out of the year and she pays for it all year round. But that's an expense that she's willing to absorb. So I think the opportunity is there for business no matter what. And you're never going to legislate people to do business. I think I would acquiesce to the higher levels, the zoning and planning, and then to the council to adjudicate this.
Thank you, Jerry.
I guess another thing too is that I don't think there's ever been a business there. The Lathines have never ran a business. The people before me have never had a business. They're built residential. They were never intended to be commercial buildings. I'm not sure about Jerry, but
business. Let me give you a little history on the business. Okay, I bought it out of bankruptcy. It was a good deal. I never did get on the initial thing. I could have bought any lot I wanted to when they were for sale, and I just wasn't interested in it at that time. But then as time came on, I said, this waterfront could be the Friday Harbor of Alaska someday, and so I had an opportunity to jump on board with it. So, okay, we got in there, and I had 4 rent signs on there for years. Nothing came of it. Somebody moved in there from the city, a city worker, and they changed, and they were living it, in which they weren't supposed to, but because I think they worked for the city, they turned an eye on it. Anyway, they left and took the toilet with them when they left. Anyway, the next thing was the ones from the arts people that had the the artist thing that they had. They were in the log cabin before, and they wanted another place and so forth, because that got bought. And I said, okay, you guys can have it for, I think it was $300 a month. And I said, but don't turn on the electricity to get heat in there. Have one of your husbands install a monitor or something. Sure enough, somebody turned on the heat and they got about a $600 bill, and that was the end of that business. And I've had not a for sale sign, but a for rent sign in there ever since. And now we use it to have Susie's employees have a place to work with, and it's a warehouse for, we house some of her things there. Plus I have some other people, who, keep some of their equipment in there and stuff too, that have boats in the harbor, and they use that for their storage. So it's a multi-purpose type thing, but, you know, we don't rent it. The guy gives me $100 a year just for the electricity, but, and it's the workers are just Susie's workers that enhance this whole town. They're the ones that are working for free in this whole town to make our town more beautiful. And we're just giving them a place to stay. And it's not the most luxurious place in the world. It's pretty Spartan, but you know, and so business will come when it's necessary. And believe me, anybody that has residential, commercial, or whatever, you'll change it anytime. You'll have the advantage to do it. If it's more valuable that way, you'll do it. If you sell it, it's going to be because it's waterfront property. It's not because it's one zoning or another. Okay, done.
Thank you, Jerry.
So how would the group like to move forward with this particular item and the recommendation that goes to the planning commission and then moves on potentially to council from there, depending on how it goes to the planning commission? One way or another, that's where it goes.
Well,
It's
I mean,
whether
if
there's
that's a
been-
process, I'm absolutely in favor of it, but I would like the planning commission to consider what has already taken place.
Right. And
I
that,
would like to make a note of that go with that. And then also,
Okay.
I would like to make a note that we consider the houses across the street, because they have a stake in it also. They don't want something offensive there.
so you'd like a note added, evaluate for rezoning the 3 properties south of the Gateway Pavilion that are currently in the CB district. The parcels are listed in conjunction with the comprehensive plan, page 30.
It's already been, that's already been,
Yeah, but in the list of recommendation going forward,
yeah.
would it work if it says evaluate for rezoning the 3 properties south of the Gateway Pavilion that are currently in the CB district, KB parcels, it lists the number, in conjunction with the comprehensive plan and page 33 of the comprehensive plan. And then Vivian's note is in there. The committee was not in agreement to recommend the concept, but there were members who felt strongly to include. And that
Okay.
lays it out there. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leslie, you say all you want to say?
Yeah, it looks like it's not, that's the procedure.
That's always been the procedure, is that it goes to the planning commission.
Right.
You get, this is advisory, planning commission is advisory. It ultimately goes to the council. But I invite you guys to be a part of all of those discussions.
Okay, looks like we have our wording, so we can move on.
As long as that works for the group.
Works for me. Everybody else, Nicola?
I'm in agreement. Good. I'm telling Dawn that we're in meeting.
Yeah.
On a conference call.
All right, and then one other item that came up was consider a requirement, it's highlighted in your packet, consider a requirement of days in operation and or a permit process that caps the total properties in short-term accommodation in the commercial business district. How,
Hi. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is Elena speaking. Sorry, I have to zoom in. I hope you all can hear me.
go ahead.
Yeah, that was my addition. I think there was some confusion about it being added. I thought that we had come to consensus that having variable opinions among the group, we were going to put forth multiple ideas to the Planning Commission. I think other people understood it differently and did not want that included.
I always thought it was kind of like we were all put our ideas out there and they were all going to move forward. That's why I was kind of surprised at people that had a problem with Elena's and my proposal for my lot. I just thought everything was just going to go forward to be looked at. I didn't know anybody wanted to shut anybody else out. So, but I do think we need to talk about it a little bit more, about what kind of ideas and what were the proposals for limiting the number of accommodations and all that kind of stuff. So I'd like to hear some of those ideas myself. See where everybody's coming from.
This is Nicola. I asked to revisit this because I felt like we had discussed this item in a previous meeting that you hadn't been able to attend, and that this was brought back right before last meeting, and then it kind of snuck in on the proposal when I thought that we had already kind of closed the door on it. In the previous meeting, we had talked about all businesses in the commercial business district, and the idea that we want businesses to be in business and to be operating, and what that means and what that looks like. Having those minimum requirements of a city license and a sales tax and a state license. And I don't know if there were other items, but that any person could come in and have any business and operate for 2 days out of the year and say that they are operating a business in this district. And it wasn't specific to short-term rentals. In that previous meeting, we had talked about not just addressing short-term rentals, but addressing the entire district in that regard. We have also discussed previously about trying to promote business and not adding more regulation. I think that if we are adding additional paperwork for the city and additional permitting processes, we are going to be stifling business and not promoting it. We don't want to be making things more difficult for the people that want to be in business. So as a person that has a short-term rental, in the event that something happens in the future and there are only X amount of permits available for the district, and X, Y, and Z get those permits for those spots, and I am last to apply, and then I'm not able to run a business that I am trying to run year round because someone else has stepped into one of my permitted places. It felt unfair as a business owner. If we are going to be regulating all of the short-term rentals that are available, shouldn't be regulating any business. Like, how many coffee shops do we want in town? How many grocery stores do we want in town? How many X, Y, and Z? Like, there's a supply and demand that already will take care of that, in my opinion. I don't think that we had to single out short-term rentals specifically when I thought we covered this by having being in business requirements.
Okay, yeah, we did. I can speak to this a little bit. So I wouldn't feel like it's singling out short-term rentals. I think rentals at large, long-term rentals are already in permit process. And the reason for that, this is not unusual in other commercial business districts in other communities. It's commonplace to not have your commercial business district read as residential, to foster public spaces, to create a vibrant downtown. That's why in other communities, you'll usually see that they require businesses on the first floor level and residences, including rentals, on the second level. So I really liked the wording of that addition that, we regulate days of operation of businesses, but it was brought up last meeting that that could be very difficult to regulate. And I would like this consideration to be put forward because it gives another way to look at that issue. I think that a certain amount of short-term rentals would really be a great addition to the commercial business district. But it's my personal opinion that if the whole commercial business district became short-term rentals, it wouldn't feel like home downtown and it wouldn't feel public. I know my opinion is not everyone's opinion, but I think it's an opinion that's important and that is probably shared by other members of the community. So I would appreciate it being included.
Well,
Ms. Walt, I have a couple of questions. How many are we talking? 5, 10? And how did we come up with that figure? And what's the criteria for who gets the permit? Like based on merit or first come, first serve? But mainly is how many and how'd you come up with that formula?
We haven't come up with a formula. That would be up to the city, I would assume, or the council.
Yeah, so currently for long-term residential rentals, we have a cap of 10%, which amounts to 3 long-term rentals. And I believe those are administrative permits on a first come, first served basis.
Well, it just seems to me before you put another regulation in, you need some criteria to go by for even considering it first, I would think. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm just saying, we got someone deciding whether we go out of business tomorrow or not, or what criteria. I mean, that's pretty important, knowing where you got this information and getting back to this comprehensive plan in several places. It's like, how can we get more visitors over here? That's mentioned at least a dozen times in that comprehensive plan, and talking about whether they're bird watchers or whatever they're doing, and how do we, that's what's going to add that extra restaurant that you're all wanting. And if we don't have them here, it's never going to happen. And, maybe there need to be more in the other part of the commercial, but I'm just saying, without knowing those things, how do you regulate something if you don't know a formula? It's just a question. I don't know. Someone help me.
so this is Marcia. What I would like to propose is that Leslie's idea be included and that Elena's idea be included, and that they are given the credit for the ideas, like we did with Ecola's, wording throughout, our recommendations, because that's all this is just a recommendation to the planning and zoning. And then they take it to the city. So we're not setting anything down in stone here for sure. These are just recommendations. So I would like to propose that we include both of those things, and then it goes forward from there. We can even include the wording that there was not a consensus amongst our committee, like we did in the previous.
So would it be, this is Leslie, would it be up to the zoning committee when they look at that to decide what the formula is and how many, that goes, would that be a part of what the zoning board would?
So
look at?
ultimately, it would be their recommendation to the council, and then in the end, everything is ultimately up to the council. The goal is to get it as to the most finalized product by the time it reaches the council, and the mayor is aware of this process that we are going through and very interested in it, as well as some of the other council members. And we've had a request that when this finalization is when it's finished, when this report is finished, it will go to the council at the next meeting for them to review and provide feedback. And then from there, they'll refer it back down to the planning commission, saying yay or nay, for the direction that they're liking or not liking of it going, then the planning commission can further work on it. However, if you would like yourself to still be a part of the process, you can attend any of those meetings or potentially even request an extension for the subcommittee if you want to be able to work out some of these more finite details to be presented as the recommendation. This is not, everything in here is a final recommendation of the group, but that there is still a long process before any of these things actually go through. And ultimately, it's at the council level.
So if I wanted to write something out and give it to planning and zoning and, you know, in my words or way I feel, I could like submit that as part of that, or is it, do we need to put it in this proposal with all our other bullet points?
You are absolutely welcome to write something out and.
Because I don't know
submit it with
that
it.
you know, if I get a chance to go to a meeting, I might, but if I don't, then, you know, I can still submit something in writing about, how, all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. And then so with Marcia's idea, actually, I think this recommendation at the end came from Allison. So we could put Leslie Martin and Allison Ryan next to it for the first change discussed. And then we could even just do an asterisk by that. And then on the next one, we could put Elena Chartier and asterisk. And at the end, we can have asterisk and then include that line that this item was put forth. But the committee was not in agreement. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, but I might also want to include my own asterisk.
And what would that be?
Well, it would pretty much be what I had just said, that I don't want us to be requiring more regulation because I think it stifles business, but I can write something out that will be more eloquent to my
Okay.
feelings.
The council meeting that this is set to go to, if this is finalized tonight, would be a special meeting on the 27th. So if you can have your guys' written documents to staff by the end of day on the 21st, it can be included in the packet with the recommendations.
Randy?
Yeah,
Madam,
this is,
if I may.
this is Randy
Okay.
Sweet. I just wanted to, just recall that when we did meet to begin with, one of the things that I did ask for is that all ideas were welcome, and I actually asked the group, how would you want to deal with consensus and majority opinions? So I think this is it. I think it's really important. We all aren't going to agree on everything, but we want to make sure that the ideas are welcome and included. And then there's risks and benefits to different ideas. And so the council will deal with those, but I think I just want to thank everybody for bringing their ideas and for being able to have the discussion and for the amazing amount of work that has been done to improve our community. And so we're just starting out at this point with all the information that has been developed by this group, and then it will go forward, and then we'll get feedback, and then it'll be worked on. But the main thing is it's going to help our community get better. And also we want to support businesses and help businesses thrive. So it's just, I think when groups come together, it's like, sometimes it's hard and it's just, you're crunching through things but that's where kind of things get surfaced and we understand what's going on, and then we can move forward and do what's best for our community. So thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vivian.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments of everyone. I think that's a good compromise of what I think Marcia, you put it forward, and then our city manager having people having their comments put down and push forward, and then having who is a champion of them, and having that in there. I also Okola, I totally understand what you're saying about your property. And I think what Elena is saying is what most of us would like to see our waterfront commercial area be a prosperous business district. And it is hard. We all understand and appreciate how hard it is to have a business in Seldovia. And we want people to at least be open 3 to 4 months of the year. And the city has in the past had some incentives to do that. We need to market that better. But what we don't want is that people try to work the system, which has happened in the past. And that's something that we're trying to rectify and work with what we actually have and everybody be in compliance. And so there is no he said, she said, they didn't do, but I have to sort of thing. That's not fair to anybody. So I think the information is being put towards eventually to the city council. And again, as our city manager said, everybody is welcome to come and put in their 2 cents during public opinion time during that conversation. But I think I appreciate, Akola, what you're saying. You're trying to have a business in Philadelphia. We want to support you in whatever way we can. But we also want to make sure that people aren't abusing the system and that people are trying to have a business for 3 to 4 months of the year. And if they can do it longer and have a full-time rental during the down season, terrific. Give people a place to live. But I agree with what's been said many times over with this committee. You've done a fantastic job. The amount of discourse of information and everybody bringing forth their ideas. I'm very impressed with you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vivian. Okay, so we're all in agreement that we will move forward with the asterisk idea and that everybody's ideas will be included rather than trying to come up with just one that is all of ours.
I think we've done a great job. I think these were 2 sticking points that not everybody on the committee did agree on. I do like the idea of stating after those items that the committee was not in a full agreement.
Okay. So are we ready to adjourn? Are we?
One last time.
You have to ask for public comment even though there's
Oh,
no
yes.
public.
Are you sure?
Do we have any public comments?
Were there any other issues that came up for us?
Those were the only 2 that were flagged, and so nobody else has any other issues then.
And just throw out there one more time, even though I said it, but just to make sure it's clear that that 21st, if you want to add individual comment, if you can provide it by the 21st.
21st this.
Exactly.
Now, when will this actually go to zone? I mean,
So the mayor it's a little out of order. Typically, it would go right to zoning, and that would be the April 3rd meeting. But because there's such interest from the council, the mayor has requested that the council be able to provide feedback before the planning commission works on it in case there's a direction they do or don't want to go on, so that so that the planning commission isn't spending a lot of time on anything if the council has a recommendation or a differing idea or more idea to add to it. So they'll provide feedback, and then potentially it would go to the April 3rd commission meeting, and it'll be a draft ordinance process. So the first meeting would be just to discuss it. And then I'm guessing there'll be a couple of meetings to draft the ordinance itself. This is a long process. As you guys saw that it took for you guys to get through it. Now it'll be drafting it out into a ordinance format, and then it would be recommending it to the council. And the council's typically a 2 hearing process. Potentially they could do a work session or a joint work session before then, just to get the full awareness of what's going to them. And then it would be a 2 meeting, one to introduce and then the second for public hearing and adoption. So it's a ways out.
I wrote down the 27th. Is it, so it's right, it's the 21st?
The meeting is the 27th, but if you want to submit public comment,
Oh,
you need to have it in by the 21st to be included in the packet.
And we say that you can submit it all the way up to the 27th or bring it to the meeting, but if you want it in the first packet that goes with the recommendation all together in a bundle, 21st is your day. But you can, if it comes later, you can submit it later.
Great, and I guess Randy has some awards.
I just, again, I just wanted to, thank you for all the time that you have spent to do this. It's, I very much appreciate it, and I want you to know that you're appreciated. So,
Thank you, man.
and the certificates for them, well, for the people that aren't here, we'll send you the certificates. This want you to know that you're appreciated with working at. And you take them. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the ordinance?
I'd like to just compliment the whole process that you've gone through, the dedication. The staff has done an amazing job and lots of hours of input. It's nice to see younger people on board here that are getting involved and taking part of this. So it's encouraging to see that from an old timer for about Seldovia. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Liz and Heidi.
Yeah.
Especially for being here with us and giving us direction and keeping us out of the mud. Yeah. You guys have put in a lot of work. Yes. All right, I think we're ready to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, everybody. Night.